morning. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. We begin a new week this morning in Wilmington, Delaware, where jury selection will get underway today in the federal gun case against President Biden's son, Hunter Biden.
Days after finishing one major trial with possible political implications, here comes another. It is the first time in U.S. history the child of a sitting president is heading to trial. Hunter Biden is facing 3 felony counts in connection with the purchase of a gun back in 2018. The case is heading to trial after a plea deal last summer fell apart. A federal judge raised concerns over the terms of that agreement. Hunter Biden has pleaded not guilty to the charges and argues he is being unfairly targeted by the Justice Department. He faces up to 25 years in prison if he's convicted. For more on what we can expect, we're joined by NBC News senior investigative producer Sarah Fitzpatrick, who's outside the courthouse in Wilmington. We're also joined by NBC News Now legal analyst Angela Senadella. Good morning to both of you. Sarah, let's start with you. Hunter Biden spent the weekend in Delaware with his father. Just remind us, what are the charges he's facing and how did we get to this point?
Good morning, Joe. So this trial in Wilmington is focused on a very narrow set of charges, 3 charges against Hunter Biden related to a gun purchase he made in October 2018. The charges relate to allegations that he lied on a federal form, that he was actually in the midst of a drug addiction when he purchased a handgun, which is, of course, a very strict felony in the United States. The reason we're at this point is in part because it's been a long time coming. There was a over 5-year investigation into Hunter Biden. It started out as a very broad probe that looked into allegations of money laundering, foreign influence, et cetera. And it narrowed, as we've reported over a year ago, to just a focus on tax charges. Hunter Biden's attorneys and federal prosecutors had negotiated a plea deal. They were a year ago today, they were finalizing very specific language about what would go into that to ensure that Hunter accepted a plea deal and never faced charges. That plea deal fell apart about in July, and ever since, both sides have dug in and have been focused on going to trial to prove, for the defense to prove Hunter's innocence, and prosecutors then charged him with a series of crimes, all, looking towards a very serious amount of jail time. So I think this is a day that both sides never expected initially to have to go to trial, but today they're digging in, and it remains to be seen what will happen.
Angela, let's bring you in here. Break down this case for us from a legal perspective. What are the arguments you expect both sides to make?
So as Sarah said, the question is really if he lied on these forms and he was an unlawful user of or addicted to drugs at the time when he was purchasing a gun. So the reason why this is so personal, though, is because at issue is the extent and nature of his drug use at that exact period of time. So we already know from the prosecution that they expect to call up to 12 witnesses. Of those 12 witnesses, 3 appear to be women with whom he's had romantic relationships with. Hallie Biden, his former ex-wife, or his ex-wife, and then also the mother of his baby, London Roberts. And so all 3 of these women are expected to testify about how much crack cocaine he was using at that time. The defense's argument really can only be he wasn't addicted to drugs at that time, but that argument is frankly not going to be that strong given the mountain of evidence we have for the prosecution. They're also going to be allowed to use parts of his own book where he does allude to his own drug use.
Sarah, let's ask you more about the defense strategy here. How does Hunter Biden's legal team plan to make its case to the jury?
I think we're going to be looking at kind of 3 major areas of focus. The first is that Hunter's drug addiction at the time that he purchased the form, whether or not he was actually using drugs. There's a lot of contemporaneous evidence that the prosecution is going to introduce, text messages, things from his laptop. And the defense is going to argue that those items don't meet the bar in terms of proving the fact that he was actually actively using drugs at the time and that he believed that he was making a false statement. The other thing we're going to see is there's a really interesting potential curveball in this case, which relates to the form, the actual form that Hunter Biden filled out and that was submitted to the ATF. There are actually, we learned just a few weeks ago, 2 versions of this form, and that the form was actually altered, it appears, by gun store employees after the fact. And so I think we're really going to see Hunter's attorneys dig into that aspect and bring as much of that into the courtroom and try and introduce, you know, a level of doubt about exactly what transpired on this form and, you know, if this is an appropriate representation of what actually occurred. Now, the judge has been very clear about what she will allow you know, to be introduced into evidence and set in front of the jury. And it is still unclear exactly if they will let the prosecution and the defense discuss the fact that there are these two forms and introduce the second form into evidence. So I think that's the curveball that we're going to be looking for that could really throw what appears to be a very straightforward case off course. But again, that still remains to be seen, and we're not going to know until a couple days into trial.
Angela, we know that Hunter Biden could face up to 25 years in prison. What do you see actually happening with potential punishment here?
So it's certain he won't actually receive that final sentence of 25 years, the maximum. It's possible he could face some jail time. I do think, though, because he is a first-time offender with no previous criminal history, that would likely reduce any sentence time that he is given. Also, in a case like this where it involves drug addiction, if the defendant at sentencing can prove to the judge that they are reformed, they are rehabilitated, they're no longer under the throes of a drug addiction, that can often reduce or eliminate any sort of jail time.
Sarah and Angela, thank you both very much for kicking us off this hour.
This morning, the fallout from former President Trump's conviction continues. He was found guilty on 34 felony counts in that criminal hush money trial last week. Here's how the former president responded after the jury delivered its verdict.
It was a rigged trial. This is a scam. There's a rigged trial. Everybody saw it was a rigged deal. It was a rigged trial.
Trump prepares to be sentenced in 6 weeks. We're taking a look now at how voters are reacting. NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hilliard has details from a poll that was taken right after the verdict was announced.
Voters weighing in, reacting to former President Trump's guilty convictions.
My reaction was bleep yes. Because he deserves it.
I think this whole thing has been a mockery. I'm embarrassed for our country.
Trump leaving New York this weekend for his golf club in New Jersey with a stop at a UFC fight. And now we're seeing the impact the 7-week trial could start to have on the presidential race. New polling taken after the verdict showing a majority approve of the jury's decision. Most concerning for Trump is the impact it may have on the small pocket of voters on the fence. 11% of GOP voters and 26% of independent voters, suggesting they're less likely to vote for him now. But largely, the historic conviction keeping the Biden-Trump rematch in that same months-long deadlock. Where it is changing things, campaign coffers. Trump's team reporting it's raked in more than $52 million since the verdict, narrowing President Biden's lead in the cash race.
No one is above the law was reaffirmed.
Republican legislators now lashing out. Several senators, including J.D. Vance, pledging that they are no longer cooperating with Democrat legislation or approving judicial appointees.
If they're going to try to throw Donald Trump in prison, we're taking the gloves off.
A difficult fight ahead for the GOP as their party's presumptive nominee faces mounting legal pressures. Vaughn Hilliard, NBC News, New York.
All right, June is here. Hopefully you know that by now. And temps are definitely rising with millions in the West now under a heat alert that'll linger throughout the week. So for more on that, let's get your morning news now weather forecast.
That's right. And we have meteorologist Violetta Yaz with us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. Yes, we are getting into June and cranking up that heat. You can see 22 million people impacted by these heat alerts through Thursday. You're expecting the heat advisory and the heat watch in effect there for most of California, extending into parts of Arizona. That'll continue for the next couple of days, but we've got some warnings in effect as well. What's happening is we have this big dome of high pressure that's not only going to strengthen, but it's also going to expand. So we're going to see this extreme heat advance into parts of the Southwest and even into parts of Texas. So here's what we have going on for today. You can see those temperatures generally 10 to 15 degrees above average from parts of Texas all the way up into the high plains, extending east into the Midwest as well. We'll be in the mid 80s all the way up into Rapid City, but down through parts of Texas, Lubbock, We'll be at about 100 degrees for today. Las Vegas at 102, but this is just the beginning of it. So taking a look at our highs for tomorrow, 103 in Roswell, Del Rio, 107, 104 in Phoenix. And again, we'll see those temperatures continue to climb. Later in the week, though, is when this is all going to peak. 108 in Vegas on Wednesday. Heading into Thursday, we'll be at 111. You can see those start to come down Friday, but not by much. We'll still be very comfortably into the triple digits as we head into the end of the week. So this is something that's going to stick around for a little while. We're talking about steady temperatures anywhere from 10 to 15 or nearly 20 degrees above average once you're looking up in Northern California in the Redding area. So in terms of severe weather, just a little bit east of this area, we're seeing some severe thunderstorms start to develop across parts of Kansas, parts of Nebraska, extending down into Oklahoma. Already some severe watches and warnings there, and that's going to be the main area of concern for today. You can see those storms moving into Great Bend, another area up toward Minneapolis. So this will be the main risk area for today, this afternoon, and into tonight, before eventually we do see that threat shift east. But large hail, a big concern there. This area has really not been able to get a break in the last couple of weeks. So, yeah, by the end of the week, we will start to see that threat diminish a little bit.
All right, good news for them there. All right, Violetta, thank you so much.
Well, turning now to an infrastructure crisis that's unfolding in Atlanta this morning. Water service has now returned after 3 major water main lines burst on Friday morning.
It turned into a 2-day water outage, putting residents under a boil water notice. Atlanta is just the latest city facing the consequences of crumbling infrastructure costing millions of dollars to repair.
NBC News correspondent Priya Shrithar joins us from Atlanta with the latest. Priya, good morning. So do we know what caused the breaks in these particular pipes? And tell us about the response from local officials.
Yeah, that's right. Well, what we're hearing so far is that those 2 water main breaks, it was a 48-inch line and a 36-inch line, they broke because they were old and corroded. And this is something that happens quite frequently in the United States. According to the American Society of Civil Engineers, there's actually a water main break every 2 minutes in America, which causes 6 billion gallons of treated water to basically be lost every day, which is enough to fill 9,000 swimming pools. But unfortunately, in this particular case, these 2 water main breaks happened in a very densely populated area of Atlanta, so it caused major disruptions to city facilities and thousands of people who lived in this area. It's estimated that about 1.2 million Atlanta residents rely on the city of water, and almost half of those were impacted by these weekend's water main breaks. But as you mentioned, there's been a lot of criticism against the Atlanta mayor about how he handled the situation. As you mentioned, this all began on Friday morning. The city didn't issue its first update to residents until 8 p.m. on Friday evening, and then they didn't update residents again for another 12 hours. Not to mention that the mayor of Atlanta wasn't even in the state of Georgia when any of this even happened. He was actually in Tennessee and came back to Atlanta after this all unfolded, and that prompted many residents in this area to be extremely angry, even posting flyers saying, "Do you have water? Has anyone seen or heard from Mayor Andre Dickens?" But since then, he did hold a press conference on Saturday afternoon and promised residents that he would update them every 2 hours until this entire situation has been resolved. And he actually just tweeted a video that he was here on site, exactly where I'm standing right now, at 2 o'clock in the morning, kind of monitoring the crews here to make sure that they were working to restore water to everyone. This particular pipe burst is still being repaired right now, and they actually had to shut down the water in some of the local areas to try to work on this particular pipe. So there are still people being impacted this morning, guys.
Priya, we are going to speak with the mayor in just a moment. We'll give him a chance to respond to some of that criticism. Just what has been the impact broadly on the city, in the downtown area, in the midtown area where so many people live and work?
Yeah, there were so many important critical buildings that were impacted by this, including the Atlanta City Hall, the Georgia Supreme Court, the Georgia Capitol Building, the Fulton County Jail, the Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, just to name a few. And it wasn't just sort of those big buildings that impact a lot of people. There were also several small businesses, restaurants, bars, and gyms that had to close their doors because they didn't have any running water on Saturday. And as I mentioned, the city did did issue a state of emergency so that they could sort of free up resources and get the crews to be able to respond to this very quickly. But even Emory University's Midtown Hospital, which is one of the busiest hospitals in Atlanta, actually had to divert patients who were coming via ambulances to other Emory campuses and to other nearby hospitals because they didn't have any water either. So this really impacted many, many people over the weekend, guys.
And Priya, Atlanta has been trying to update its infrastructure for years. What kind of work have they put into that system? And does an event like this sort of reveal just how much still needs to be done?
Absolutely, yes. They have, prioritized this in recent years, including building a 5-mile tunnel in rock to basically try to have enough water supply for at least 30 days should there be any sort of crisis. They also, the voters here in Atlanta, approved a 1-cent sales tax increase to try to address federally mandated sewer improvements. So it's something, as you mentioned, that cities across the United States are having to deal with. The infrastructure issues, and so they're all coming up with ways to basically fund what's being mandated by the federal government to make those improvements.
All right, Priya, thank you very much for your reporting here.
We are now joined by Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens for more on the situation and what happens there. Mayor, first of all, I just want to give you a chance to respond to some of the criticism that Priya mentioned there. People saying there's flyers that say, help us find our mayor. Critical you didn't address the media until 2 p.m. on Saturday because you were out of town in Memphis. Do you wish you had done things differently? What is your message to those who are upset with how this all went down?
Yeah, good morning. And definitely always want to stay communicative with the public. On this water main break happened, and about 1 o'clock on Friday, we let folks know about what was going on. And when I was indeed out of town to Memphis, Tennessee, for only about 23 hours, I came back and addressed the public directly about, where we were in the process of those repairs. I told them that I'd be communicating with them every 2 hours. They were definitely, wanting to make sure we were helping them figure out how would we get bottled water to them, how would we return service. And then we did get the first repair fixed right away at the end of Saturday, and then pressure started to fill back up so that individuals downstream, everyone had water, but we needed to make sure that they were under a boil water advisory. The second pipe burst that we are working on currently. I was there, every few hours, and also the crew's been there overnight. And we are at a place now where they are in the hole fixing it, and we should see some good results soon. I'm hoping that the boil water advisory can be lifted within the hour or within the next few hours. That will give folks a level of comfort. But all day yesterday, everyone had water. They just needed to boil it. But we had, major events at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, 60,000 people there. We had individuals at the arena for a concert, 20,000 individuals there. We had 350,000 passengers at the world's busiest airport. All had pressure. Our hospital, Grady, Emory, all had enough pressure, and they still have enough pressure right now to continue to provide medical attention to the public. And we kept staying abreast of that and letting the public know every 2 hours.
Prior to that, though, as Priya had mentioned, especially in those first 24 hours, many residents who were without water and in that boil water area were not receiving information for long stretches of time. I think between that and just the fact that this happened in such a major city, and Atlanta's watershed management says the city could experience up to 30 water main breaks, I think might have a lot of people wondering, how could this happen in such a major city in America? What is being done to try to upgrade the infrastructure at a pace that means that this isn't going to happen to major parts of your city again?
Yeah, absolutely. We have to invest even more in our infrastructure. This is a result of crumbling infrastructure. Old pipes, there's pipes down there that's been since 1910, since 1930. The very pipes you're showing right now are the ones I'm talking about that are over 100 years old. And we have to upgrade and update these systems and these pipes. And that's what, our go forward plan is. Our immediate plan is to get out of the boil water advisory to make sure that we resolve this this second major pipe burst, and that is where they are right now overnight. I was out there. They're out there right now fixing it. So you'll see us continue we have a short-term plan, which is where we are right now. And then the long-term plan is to invest in our infrastructure. As stated, across America, we have old pipes, and this is affecting us with a number of water main breaks across the city, across the United States. There were some smaller breaks that also happened. I was out at one. It took about an hour to fix, about an hour and a half. So you'll see that throughout the city and throughout the region, small breaks or major breaks are happening. This one that occurred on Friday just so happened to be in the downtown area and literally affected our major convention center, our arenas, our stadiums, our hospitals, even City Hall. But where I'm at right now is in City Hall. We have water. We have the ability to hold city council meetings and to receive the public. And we're just waiting for this boil water advisory to go away.
All right. Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens, thank you for your time this morning. We do appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And to the citizens of Atlanta, we're still working hard, and apologies for the beginning of the communications, but now we're right on target and talking to you every 2 hours. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Mayor, thank you again.
Thank you.
This morning, there is uncertainty over the Gaza ceasefire proposal laid out by President Biden. An Israeli official appeared to downplay his government's involvement in the peace framework.
President Biden outlined the three-stage plan on Friday, calling it an Israeli proposal. But an Israeli official has told NBC News that the president's description was, quote, not accurate. Well, on Sunday, an aide to Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu said the proposal was not a good deal, but Israel would accept it. The race for a ceasefire deal comes after Israel carried out a new round of airstrikes on Gaza overnight, killing dozens of Palestinians.
Joining us now, NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba and our international correspondent Raf Sanchez, who's in Jerusalem. Good morning to both of you. Monica, let's start with you. Remind us what President Biden and the White House are saying about this ceasefire proposal, how they hope it would work.
So they believe that this would be a three-phase deal, and this is something that we've talked about for months, that would include the release of hostages first, of women or those who have been sick or injured, and then they would talk about moving on to a second phase where ideally men, some who are military age who are being held, could potentially be released. And throughout that, there would be, of course, a stop in the fighting. And where there's an issue here and where the two sides still disagree is on essentially when troops would withdraw from Gaza and how that would work. And that is where Israel is saying, we're not agreeing to that part, but that is what, in terms of the outline, would be the hope. So there's still some deal here that's being considered in terms of the terms, but not everything has been agreed to necessarily in terms of in what order and how it would happen. Here's a little bit more from White House National Security spokesman John Kirby.
It is an Israeli proposal, one that they arrived at after intense diplomacy with our own national security team and over at the State Department. It is a phased approach, George. We have every expectation that if Hamas agrees to the proposal, as was transmitted to them, an Israeli proposal, that Israel would say yes.
And most notably, guys, what happened on Friday when the president came out and made this announcement is that he said something that he's never said before as explicitly as he did on Friday, which is no matter what happens here, the president of the United States said it is time for the war to end.
Raf, let's bring you in here. As we just mentioned, there is some uncertainty about the Israeli position on this proposal. Once again, we just heard Kirby, they're calling it an Israeli proposal, which now we're hearing is not right. Clear up for us what we do understand about the origins of this and what we're hearing from Israel and Hamas about this plan. And then also, though, tell us about the pressure facing Prime Minister Netanyahu from the hostage families to accept it, and on the other side of that, the hardliners in his government to reject it.
Yeah, Savannah, so it's been nearly 72 hours since President Biden laid out that pretty detailed ceasefire proposal from the White House, and we are still not exactly clear what Israel's position on it. The president said that this was a proposal that originated from Israel, that was handed to the mediators and then given to Hamas. A senior Israeli official is disputing that. He is saying parts of what President described were not accurate. I asked him specifically, what are you talking about? He said Israel has not agreed to withdraw from Gaza as part of this ceasefire deal. But as you mentioned, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is under intense pressure from all directions. You have the United States urging him to get this deal over the line. You have the families of Israeli hostages gathering outside his office here in Jerusalem last night. We just spoke to the family of an Israeli-American hostage. They are saying, get this deal done. And at the same time, you have the far right of the Israeli government telling him that they will topple the government if he moves ahead with this deal. So for now, the Prime Minister only saying officially that Israel will not end the war until Hamas is destroyed, a position that they have held pretty much since October 7th. In terms of Hamas, we are hearing this morning from the Egyptian foreign minister. He is saying that Hamas is responding positively to the outlines of this ceasefire proposal. There are still a lot of details to work out, and we are waiting for a formal Hamas response at this point. Guys.
So, Monica, what kind of pressure is the U.S. applying on Israel to try and accept this proposal?
Well, certainly we have seen plenty of diplomatic pressure. We know Secretary Blinken has continued to be speaking to his counterparts in the region. He spoke with the Israeli defense minister over the weekend and said essentially that they understand and they both agree that the onus is on Hamas to accept this deal. So even if the U.S. has essentially said this would be great if it goes forward, if Israel gets to a place where it can agree to some of the terms or the phases, that's fine. But still, this is up to Hamas to eventually accept. And we have been at this place so many times before where it seems like a deal could be within reach or where they were still in the final phase of the negotiations. And if Hamas is not the one to ultimately okay it, then it can't go forward. But this also brings up a large conversation that the U.S. has been pressuring Israel about when it comes to what happens the day after the war ends and a potential two-state solution, a potential normalization deal between Israel and Saudi Arabia. And the U.S. has been trying to really bring those things up as in terms of talking about the future and trying to present to Israel this picture of what could be ahead if this deal is accepted to. But again, Hamas is the one that needs to ultimately greenlight it.
Raf, this comes amid a devastating humanitarian situation unfolding in Gaza. Of course, I know this morning we got a new update from the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees about the situation in Rafah. What are we hearing?
Yeah, Savannah, as we have talked about these many months, more than half the population of Gaza had fled to Rafah in search of safety. These are families, many of whom have been displaced 6, 7, 8 times by the fighting already. They had fled. They were sleeping in tents made of wood and plastic, and now many of them displaced again. This is the update we got this morning from the United Nations. They say forced displacement has pushed over 1 million people away from Rafah. Thousands of families now shelter in damaged and destroyed facilities in Han Yunis, where the UN keeps providing essential services despite increasing challenges. Conditions are unspeakable. Ceasefire now. Now, the Israeli military was operating in northern Gaza in the area of Jabalia last week or so. They have now pulled out of that area. Our crew was able to get in, get a sense of the devastation. And I have to tell you guys, it really looks like an earthquake swept through. There is barely a structure standing that is not significantly damaged. And it makes you think, how long and how much is it going to cost to rebuild Gaza after this war? Guys.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.